Over the last 10 years, off and on, I have been working alternately summer ecological field jobs and as a preschool teacher for Cottonwood Preschool. I admit I don't think in terms of community very often, but Cottonwood was an efficient community building machine. The school was parent participation. The goal of this philosophy was to have a parent from each of two families there every day. The parents built relationships with the teachers, the children, and with each other. It was a true play-based preschool. Play, by its nature, is freely chosen, personally directed, and intrinsically motivated, and we were seriously play-based. This means that the students spent the entire day in play, building relationships and their brains, building architecture that will last a lifetime. Largely, the focus of this community was on the relationships between parents and children. We aimed to build trust in relationships, especially trust the child knows how to take risks and keep themselves safe, and, most of all, direct their own learning. The students at Cottonwood learned everything according to their own curiosity.
It's more skin on the eyes. Huh? What's that here?
Is that more ice?
No.
What is it?
It's more ice. You can. Wow. Wow. It's really silly. I swim.
Bev Boz, a great in play-based early childhood education, said, "If it has not been in the hand, the body, and the heart, it can't be in the brain." The result of this philosophy of education was often astounding. We saw children's interests develop over the course of months before being resolved, children coming in with ideas ready to be materialized at school, and amazing cooperation between peers.
This is my track that I made, and I fixed all the parts. This is so the ball will fall off. Right?
Yep.
Go!
Perhaps the strongest bond was between the teachers. I think some of this was luck. We have compatible personalities, and my former co-teachers are some of the most wonderful people. We also shared a goal, which was to create this community, to build these relationships, while doing what we believed is best for children. Each day we would have a meeting to plan how to meet everyone's needs, children, teachers, and parents. That meeting was mixed with some banter, some exhaustion, and some processing of emotions. I don't think a community can be a community without some conflict. There were many times the parents were unsure of the methods at this unusual school. They were scared that their child wouldn't be ready for kindergarten, or worried that we let children be too wild. It can be frustrating and has sometimes undermined my feeling of community when a parent is upset that their child greets them on a late summer day, muddy and wet, or is playing outside in the cold, or is engaged in play that included paper stick swords. The reality is that mostly parents see that their child is happy, engaged, and involved in the community, and they come to trust us. I believe these relationships are why parents came to us wanting to change how they interacted with their children. In my role as a teacher, carer, listener, and mediator, I carried out my environmental purpose by sharing my love of the natural world. Invertebrates were a cornerstone of our environmental education program. We had a shady garden, perfect for millipedes and roly-polies. The children would often find me when a bug appeared, living or dead. One child told me his observation that the invertebrate he found must be dead because it breaks all apart. I would sometimes take a few kids on nature walks into the drainage ditch behind the school, where we would turn over rocks in the tiny creek. A fond memory is taking 4 4-year-olds in ball gowns into the willows, where they discovered some manner of aquatic invertebrate under a rock and declared it gross. I did not find them the most charismatic either, but I asked, "What makes them gross?" One little girl watched them for a minute and then declared, "I don't know. I guess they're not." The group then turned over every possible rock for about 10 minutes. The children found me when they wanted to discuss the offerings on the nature table. Shells, cactus skeletons, interesting rocks, burled wood. They would ask, "What is this?" The last several years I worked there, I loved to ask them back, "What does it remind you of? What do you notice about it?" I was often also asked, "What is this?" by parents about something they found in their yard or on a walk. In this case, I felt like I had to have the exact answer. Sometimes I felt completely unprepared. I thought, I know some birds and a lot of plants, but I do not know what caused that leaf gull or what that caterpillar turns into. What I found was that the adults, much like the children, mostly responded to my curiosity about what they had found, and not the right answer. One of our best events was the fall walk along the Highline Canal in Julia DeKoven Park. Students came with their parent or guardian, and all others were invited to join us. It was a manicured park with an easy walking path that was accessible to all, but with the wildness of the canal and its venerable cottonwood trees, plants, and wildlife, not to mention some interesting washed-up items. One year we found a cow femur. There was a choice to walk along the path or at the bottom of the canal, so everyone was included. After gathering at the bridge from the parking lot and pondering about what we could see at the bottom of the canal, our first stop was a cottonwood tree, whose many huge stems create a platform big enough for several preschool-age children to stand. Many of the 3 to 5-year-olds did not know they could climb a tree all by themselves, and once cradled in the branches, I got the sense they believed they had entered a new realm of existence. The next stop was a cottonwood tree that had been felled, with the center showing. Our director is a great storyteller and would tell a story about the stars inside every cottonwood tree. With all the big trees around, there were plenty of fallen twigs along the path. Everyone would look for twigs to snap at a joint and see the stars. The last stop was a big pile of snow behind the ice skating rink adjacent to the canal. A whole bunch of kids and adults would climb, slide, throw, and finally drop chunks of snow into the water under the bridge. Although the school was forced to close when the property we leased space from was in the process of being sold, I hope the lasting sense of community will be carried on by our former families. I hope that the parents and guardians continue to trust their children and themselves, and that they can find, encourage, or even create more educational opportunities that foster a love of learning and a love of the world. I hope the children and parents stay curious about nature. I hope that those children who played in the water for hours, or turned over every stone in the creek, or cut down plants and decorated their forts, can carry on loving nature and creating a better future. Personally, whether I find myself back in education or not, I hope to foster a sense of community that aspires to the one that I found at Cottonwood Preschool, with a shared sense of purpose, shared core values, communication, and commitment.